Thank you very much. Maybe I start with my colleagues. Per, would you like?
Yes, of course. I mean, it's a very serious humanitarian situation with the drought in Zimbabwe affecting so many people. And we have, from the Swedish side, we have provided some additional humanitarian assistance. But I think equally important is to build resilience. Because I fear that, I mean, it's not the first time we have a drought situation in Zimbabwe, and I fear that we will have another one in the future if we don't focus more on building the necessary resilience among the people in order for them to be able to meet another difficult situation in the future.
You want to?
Well, certainly,
Italian ambassador.
I'm in line with my colleague just said. The situation is certainly a very sad situation, and not the first time. Italy in the past helped Zimbabwe for drought in 2010, if I remember correctly. Now the emergency rose again, and certainly we will be examining if it is possible for us to intervene in emergency situation.
Anybody else on programs with France?
Yeah, as France, bilaterally, we support annually some food security projects, especially through our partners like World Food Programme and also ACF, which is a French NGO. And this year we will continue that support, and we will increase it due to the situation that you exposed. So,
Netherlands?
Yes, thank you very much. And indeed, it's a very severe situation, especially this year. And apart from the humanitarian support, I think most of our EU member countries provide, the Netherlands, for example, also via global support, the World Food Programme and others. I think also as one of our Team Europe initiatives on climate smart agriculture, we really try to do quite a lot, also the Netherlands bilaterally, with climate action, trying to support local communities to apply climate-proof agricultural practices, water harvesting, also be more sustainable in how to treat the soil, and have more, let's say, climate-wise and water-wise crops. So I think resilience and indeed trying to really focus on climate mitigation and adaptation is also an important element of this, which we all contribute to.
Anybody else?
If I can,
yeah, of course.
Also,
Greek ambassador.
On this point, the conditions of this year, which are causing this tremendous drought, actually show the way forward, which is for Zimbabwe, as my colleague mentioned, to move from rain-fed to irrigation agriculture, and we should cooperate on that in different schemes that we could that Zimbabwe needs to increase these irrigated areas so the crops could be independent of the rainfall, and build up the resilience of the local communities through that. And one other aspect that needs to be addressed is to identify the soils that are more suitable for certain crops. So not every soil is suitable for any crop.
If I may take the opportunity to link of what my Greek colleague just said, in a few weeks there will be here a fair, ADMA fair, and an Italian company will participate. It is Novamont. They are in Zimbabwe. It's not the first time they come. They came already to register a product that it is a special plastic, biological plastic, that exactly serves this purpose, to save water and to improve the quality of the products, of agricultural products.
I mean, for Germany, I can say that we mostly work through the international organizations, so World Food Program, but also UNDP, UNESCO, etc. I think we have a number of NGOs in the country that have a very good access in the countryside and in the local communities, because I think it's of very, very much importance for us that really those people receive aid that really need it. Without any partisan distribution, etc. And also I think we still lack a lot of data. We just had a meeting also within the UN circle with some of the UN organizations, and also they say we need still a lot of data of where exactly and who is affected and how the distribution processes are to be organized. So there's a lot of work to do practically, and I fully subscribe what was said about the resilience. I think that's the most important thing that has to be attacked, seriously attacked in the future, to make sure that it doesn't repeat itself again and again.
So maybe to conclude this question, a word from my side. You wanted to?
Yeah, I wanted
sorry,
to add
no
something.
problem.
Spanish ambassador. What we have pointed out is not only how we manage now the actual situation, but how can we prevent the consequences to get worse. So Spain is very keen on pointing out what do we do in a post-drought situation. So that we, for instance, related to seeds, related to water management, what can we do in order to, obviously there will be more El Niños, but what can we do to try to lessen the consequences? And mostly bearing in mind that after El Niño there will be una niña. So that will be probably floods, and we have to prevent that.
So I think my colleagues very eloquently explained everything what we are doing. What I would like to tell you is, you see that all of the member states, they have projects which are relating to drought. And we together, as Team Europe, we have set up, as the Dutch colleague said, a Team Europe initiative with over $200 million where we support greener and climate smart agriculture. Now, because there is a drought, 62 million will go in drought-related activities. And they were already outlined. And the plastic is a good example because it keeps the moisture in the morning on the field, even without rain. You can have humidity. The crops, you can have indigenous crops, which also can be planted in arid areas. You can feed livestock differently. So we are really supporting that. And then my colleagues also mentioned humanitarian aid. I think we are, all of us, have also consulted our headquarters to see whether on top of it we can also make available humanitarian aid. But I think from our side it's a long-term engagement, because the Team Europe initiative, as I say, over 200 million, is a long-term initiative. And the drought is now one part, but obviously it's also forward-looking, preventive La Nina, and preventing probably other issues which could occur in agriculture.
May at one point, please do not forget, it's a regional problem. It's not, unfortunately, not only Zimbabwe. So all our help efforts also are looking at the region. I think the cooperation between the African states has to improve too, to fight these problems together. That's also something I think is very important.
All right.
Thank you. I'm Ben from the Dynamos. My question is, it's a follow-up on last year's tour to Kariba, the demo rehabilitation. You actually expressed concerns over the delays in completing this project. So, at least if the initial timelines been met, and what are the issues at the moment?
First of all, the Kariba Dam project, I think, is the biggest dam rehabilitation in the world. It's a high-tech project. If you look at the Kariba Dam, for those who have been there, I guess you all had a chance to look at it. We are very proud that as EU, together with member states, I think Sweden is also participating and others, we are collectively rehabilitating this dam. Why? Because if it's not rehabilitated, it could be a danger for 5 million people. And on the other hand, if it's properly rehabilitated, it actually could serve to over 70% of electricity production. Of course, if there's enough water in the dam, but potentially it's a huge source of green energy. It's hydropower. So I think this is for us a key project in the context of Global Gateway. And Global Gateway is an initiative of the European Union which covers all countries in the world, particularly Africa. Half of the money goes to Africa, and in Zimbabwe we are very proud to have that. I hope personally that towards the end of the year we will witness all together, because we went already, I think with you at the time, to Kariba. We will witness the opening of the gates and filling of the sponge pool. So maybe it has taken longer, but given the size of this project, I think it is a fantastic project, and we are very proud to be there. But maybe my Swedish colleague, and who else is participating in Kariba Dam, would like to say something.
No, I don't have very much to add. As said, I think it's a very important project, and we are eager, of course, to see the rehabilitation of the dam ready as soon as possible. EU is a major contributor to the rehabilitation efforts, but Sweden has also provided $25 million to the project.
So maybe a word also on financing. We give 113 million for the rehabilitation of the Kariba Dam, but this money is coming from all the member states. So each member state contributes, and then some member states, Sweden as an example, give extra money because they consider that a very important project. And like we have seen before in the Team Europe initiative on greener and climate smart agriculture, again, the basic money is coming from all member states, and then some member states have extra project and give extra money to show their commitment to that area. There was a question over there.
Yes, certainly.
Just reintroduce yourself quickly.
Right. My name is Dinesh Out, Newsday Life and Style. Just a follow-up on the question from Mr. Kawaza. Team Europe, how updated are you on the approach to distributing the resources that you mobilize to the 10 provinces of Zimbabwe? Okay, as a way to rescue the country from the drought disaster. And secondly, who are you targeting in terms of the resources? Okay, what percentages of the 200 million are you going to allocate to the commercial farmers than to the generality?
Okay, so maybe on the first question, who would like to start on areas? I think you have Dutch have projects.
Yes, well,
Italy, yeah.
Well, Italy, we have, as far as the cooperation initiatives are concerned, we have three major agricultural projects. One is in the area of Mazingo, and the other two are close to the frontier of Mozambique, in the eastern side of Zimbabwe. And so of course they contribute to have better agriculture, and to also to face the drought concern, of course.
Netherlands?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I think it's a very important question, and for indeed, because of course it's very important to target, let's say, the most vulnerable. For example, women, children, elderly, but also disabled and others. So we, as the Netherlands, we have quite a modest development program here, but we do provide support, and especially to local partners. So we work mainly with local civil society. For example, in Bisutu Valley. We support farmers, pineapple growers in the area, and that was really much affected by the cyclone Ida, with organic certification. And some of them, for example, already export their pineapples to the Netherlands. But for example, also in Chimanimani with another local partner, they provide support to youth to build water harvest infrastructure for 6 villages, and really ensure that it's like a community effort, and that the people that need it most are being targeted. In general, for the Netherlands, it's very important to include women and youth in all our work, in all our programming, and that's certainly also something we do together as EU. I think that's very important. But certainly we don't only have partners in Harare, but we really try to have an equal balance throughout the country.
I would say generally, yes, with our project as France, we are really committed to implementing projects in all the country, in every region and area of the country, and so we have implemented and we continue to implement projects. For example, in the area of Wenge, in the area of Masvingo, in the area of Manenzi, and we also implement a project which was supporting more than 20 NGOs all around the country, and that was one of the focus of that project, to have an action in all the country, and so we support NGOs in women empowerment, climate smart agriculture, as we say, which are the priorities of the Team Europe initiatives, and really we are really committed to be active in all the country. And as you know, we have, for example, in the cultural sector, we have the chance to have 2 alliances. We have one alliance in Harare and also one French alliance in Bulawayo, which is also active in Victoria Falls. So just to show that we are really committed to that.
I think that's information.
Sure.
It shows how important NGOs are. As your question, we are mostly small embassies here in Harare, so we don't have the contact really to the ground in all 10 provinces. It's fast, it's not feasible. So we depend on those who are in place, and I think we have a number of German NGOs especially that are addressing these problems. Welthungerhilfe, World Hunger Help is one of those organizations. We have also 2 huge development organizations that are financed by the Catholic Church and by the German Protestant Church, Brot für die Welt, Bread for the World, and Miseror, and they are in contact also with the religious leaders in these communities, and I think that's also a group that is very helpful in reaching the most needy one. As my Dutch, I can underwrite everything what Eva said. The most needy, the women, the children, and they are the ones who know how to reach them and on whom we depend, plus evidently our friends from the UN organization.
Maybe a word for me. So you see, we have the whole spectrum. Actually, when we tackle an issue like green and climate smart agriculture, we do it in a very holistic way, in particular when you have a drought. So some parts are on resilience. You could see where are needs for resilience. This is in specific areas in the country, probably much less in Harare, yeah, then or in Bulawayo, but maybe then outside. There's a lot of livestock issues, etc. So then, on the other hand, we also support commercial farmers because it's also important, yeah, and planting certain crops or helping them with irrigation, etc. I think are also means of helping commercial farmers. So I think we are really trying to tackle the entire spectrum.
If I can add something on commercial farmer, exactly, there's a whole delegation of Zimbabweans presently going to Italy to participate to make fruit fair.
Okay. Who was next here somewhere? Maybe Satyen.
Thank you. Marian Shaba from ZTN Prime. My question is to you, Ambassador, on economic development. What measures have you put in place as the EU to promote trade and investment between Zimbabwe and the European Union? Some examples would be great. I like that the Italian ambassador spoke about their participation in ADMA. What other areas of cooperation are there?
I will start with that one, with trade, but then investment I would invite also my colleagues because it's done at a national level as well, and you could just see the initiative of Italy to bring Zimbabweans to Italy. I think on the trade side we have a trade agreement with Zimbabwe. It's the Economic Partnership Agreement. It exists in several years, and very frequently when we go somewhere and we talk about it, people are not aware that companies, Zimbabwean companies, can export duty and tariff-free to the European Union. And they can also import from the European Union with some restrictions because the Zimbabwe, to protect their own market, has, for example, said no dairy products, no poultry, etc. But otherwise, companies can also buy duty and tariff-free packaging material, machinery, etc. So I think what we do now is we promote that. And you play a crucial role in that as media, because it is important for companies to know that this option exists. So far, we have a good trade. We have over 700 million euros annually trade. We are the fourth biggest buyer, the fifth biggest trading partner, fourth biggest buyer, the biggest buyer of horticulture product in the country. 42% of horticulture products go to the EU, to different EU member states. So we could lean back and say that's fantastic, but let's also face it, we could do much more. And to do much more means, first of all, the companies need to know that this option exists. We have still below 200 companies being registered for export to the EU. Could be 2,000. So, but here, I think we have all to play together to help companies to be aware. And we on our side, we have set up a program to facilitate trade. We can accompany companies, explain. We work at borders together with the government to facilitate the going out products or coming in. Sometimes it's administrative questions, but people need to be aware of that. So I hope that in the next couple of years, we maybe reach the 1 billion in trade, because we have quite a significant increase in the last years. And I said we have 700 million euros now, so it's a realistic objective. So I hope we can make that. But on investment, I would like my colleagues maybe to say a word.
Maybe, well, first of all, I mean, Sweden is actually the third biggest bilateral donor to Zimbabwe when it comes to development assistance. But I think we more and more realize, I mean, from our side and also on the side of Zimbabwe, that aid by itself will not take Zimbabwe out from poverty. What is even more important, I think, is to increase trade and investments. And we are also trying now with the development strategy that we have here in Zimbabwe to focus more how we can support the private sector development, entrepreneurship, provide start-up capital to women and youth who would like to set up new companies. And I think really trade and investments is something that we need to focus more on. And we see, I would like to say, an increasing interest from some Swedish companies. We have a Swedish company that was here recently looking into water purification. They had a discussion with members of the parliament here in Harare and also officials in Bulawayo We have another Swedish company who is interested in setting up a factory producing solar collectors, and so I think it's much more we can do in this area together.
Well, as far as Italy is concerned, presently, 8 and 9 of May, the president of the Association of Industries, of the Zimbabwean Industries, together with the chief executive officers, are in Italy for a business-to-business conference, Italy-Africa business-to-business conference, and which is a follow-up of the Italy-Africa summit, to which your president, President Mnangagwa, participated at the end of January. And so this is an initiative exactly to improve relations in order to strengthen the trade relations. At the same time, as I told you, Novamont is an Italian company here to participate to the ADMA fair and presenting its products in the agricultural field, technologically advanced plastic to biological and that to save water and to improve production, quality and quantity production, and as well as bringing an equipment on purpose to make the process of planting, particularly tobacco, more convenient, easier, and so to help a very important branch of the agriculture, of the Zimbabwean agriculture. More generally, I mean, we have also here in Zimbabwe 3 Italian companies with direct investments. One is very well known, I believe, we built, that is engaged since many decades in building dams here in Zimbabwe, and not only here, in all Africa, but particularly in Southern Africa. And then we have other 2 companies in the mining sector for granite, black granite. They are manufacturing also granite products, and 70% of the production is exported, while 30% is locally consumed. So we really believe that the trade with Zimbabwe will improve, also because of you, because of the Zimbabweans trying to be very proactive in order to participate to fairs around the world, and in Italy, as I told you, now they are also participating to Make Fruit, is the biggest agricultural fair in Italy, and so I'm confident that the trade will improve, also if those obstacles coming from tariffs, trades, and problem of regulations are overcome, and I think that they will be overcome.
Romania first, then Netherlands.
Only to add to this part, we are rather active here. 2 months ago, we have organized EU member states a meeting with business people, private business people, and it was the first meeting, and I would say very successful. There were 200 business women and businessmen, and we discussed the starting of a dialogue. And we are thinking already to make a second edition. Then 2 weeks ago, most of us were 4 days in Bulawayo at the CITF. And we spoke with thousands of people. And most important was business. Each country presented its booth, what is the offer, what can the Zimbabweans sell, where, how are possible contacts, because there is a huge distance, but electronics are solving this. We in Romania, we have developed a platform in which buyers and sellers are coming together, which is a novum. So you are getting with your merchandise there, and at the same time you are seeing what you can buy. This is a first step, and then physical steps can follow. So there is a lot of things. Actually, our pavilion, His Excellency can say, won for the second time, second participation, second time, the first place as pavilion in CITF. So we are trying.
The Netherlands?
Yes, thank you. And yes, well, even though the interest from Dutch companies might still be a bit limited, there certainly is potential, and there is interest. For example, in our case, given our expertise of the Netherlands is a lot in the agricultural sector, horticulture. There is a big Dutch supermarket partnering here with a local company, providing a lot of fresh produce. Actually, more than half of Zimbabwe's fresh produce is being exported to the Netherlands. We still have weekly KLM flights, and via the Netherlands to a lot of other EU countries, of course, as well. And that's, for example, blueberries, garden peas, minestoe, and a lot of other products as well. But I think there is potential for more. We also provide support to private sector development here. For example, we supported the establishment of the Horticultural Development Council, and now we still support them, but also together with the EU. They were, for example, also present at the Zimbabwe International Trade Fair, and it's really an association of growers that work together to really increase their productivity, but also their exports to Europe and to other countries as well. But what we hear back from our companies as well, of course, it's very important to have, let's say, a business-friendly environment with good policies, and you know, when that's really in place, and including, of course, a stable economy, I'm sure that will certainly increase the trade, but also the investment. But from our side, we are already really trying to promote a lot.
Okay. Anybody else from this side? Portugal?
Yes, thank you very much. From the Portuguese perspective, well, we just have for the time being one Portuguese company here in, a Portuguese investor here in Zimbabwe in the field of construction. So it's not enough. I'm not happy. I came recently, but I try to improve the situation. But I want to be positive, and also why? Because we have other companies, namely also in the field, mainly in the field of construction, who are present in Zambia and Malawi. So they can come here from time to time. I've been in contact with them, and also, of course, several in Angola and Mozambique. You may understand that we have a stronger relationship with those two countries. And on the other hand, we had initial talks on renewable energy, where we had a certain know-how. We are a small country, a very rich country, but we have a certain know-how and added values in those fields. And well, I would like to attend next edition of the ZITF. So I would like to go to Bulawayo next year, perhaps with one or two Portuguese companies. We would like to know what we want to contribute to Zimbabwean development, but also, of course, we want to know, to have perspectives and to know what the opportunities are.
Thanks. There is a growing interest. You see, ZITF was a good example. So I think collectively we will look into next year. You heard that some of the member states would like to bring companies. I think that is a way also to promote Zimbabwe for our own companies, and also maybe to organize a matchmaking at some point in the context of the ZITF Bulawayo International Trade Fair. Next one was here, I think. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. My name is Catherine. Given an improvement in the trade relations, Zimbabwe is looking forward to have more EU companies investing in Zimbabwe. But we have observed some of the big EU companies in Zimbabwe, like Lafarge, ceding their shares to local companies. Are they facing any challenges?
This is which country?
Lafarge.
Lafarge is French?
It's Swiss.
what is it? Swiss, no, it's not EU.
Swiss.
It's not EU. So,
Nestlé.
Or it's Swiss.
Swiss.
Still, I think, if I mention it, a business-friendly atmosphere is necessary. I was posted twice to US, which is supposed to be the heaven for investors. But investors are like white light. They are shy and they are rare. So we as governments in our countries, it's the industries that decide themselves where to invest, how much to invest. They look at the conditions, so security, the legal framework, the fiscal framework, everything has to be right to make them come. And as with the Netherlands, German investors who have been burned twice in big inflations we had in Germany are one of the shyest species.
here, I think.
Okay, Simanyo from the Sunday Mail. Months after Zimbabwe held their general elections, how do you assess the political and social stability in Zimbabwe? And do you consider the country a peaceful nation for investors from Europe to invest in?
Who would like to start?
Yeah, actually, we can say what we say in all the countries where we are serving. We do not have comments to internal politics. Embassies are not doing this. Even if from the newspaper sometimes you fear we have a word no, we have a mandate here and we have to stop when it is something which is internal. But actually we are not waiting a declaration or something else. We are waiting some conditions, as my German colleague said, which are convincing investors. It is not about speaking around, it is about a real condition. And if the investor who is putting his money on the table is not convinced, we embassies or we governments cannot convince him.
Other? Lucas? Okay. No? Maybe from the EU side, I think we are talking about investment climate. Yeah? Investment climate, as my German colleague already said, is never at its top in no country in the world. I think in all EU member states and any country of the world, you can always improve the investment climate. And the more you improve it, the more you will have investment. And I think if I can mention one process which in my view could potentially improve the investment climate, it's the arrears clearance and debt resolution process, which has been put in motion by His Excellency the President with the facilitator, former President of Mozambique, Chissano, and the President of the AFDB. Why? Because it's a process where the government unilaterally, in a government-driven way, as a sovereign country, has proposed reforms on the economic side, on the good governance side, and on the land issues. And that, if you look at it, because it's all public, what the government proposed could potentially massively increase investment climate, because it includes ultimately access to sovereign lending. Zimbabwe currently does not have access to sovereign lending, so the process aims. And why? Because that sovereign lending could help to make Vision 2030 a reality, because you can build infrastructure, etc. So we, I think, collectively are very committed to this process. And we hope that the government, what they have put in motion, will be able to do it. But we stand ready as partner to support them in that endeavor. But I think that is, don't know what my colleagues want to comment on it. I think it's a very important process.
Well, certainly what just said my colleague is true, absolutely true. To improve the climate of investment, certainly the solution of the arrears question is extremely important. Of course, as my other colleague, my Romanian colleague said, the companies are moving on their own in a certain sense. It depends very much on their risk tendency, how much risk do they want to take, and they are available to take. So from this side, our task is to lower as much as possible the risk of their investments. From Italy, as I said, we have 3 companies here since many decades with direct investments, and we have also traditional commercial partners of Zimbabwe, because New Holland, for instance, sells tractors to Zimbabweans since the early 1900s, and Laser is a company selling here, mounting here equipment to make biscuits, which is $1 million. Besides, I mean, there are also, if you visit the shops here in Harare, we find easily Italian food. So there are distributors of Italian food, and so from this point of view, I don't think I can say that trade relations with Zimbabwe and Italy are difficult. I mean, Italian companies, as far as I know, they have a good relations with this country.
Thank you.
Somebody new, maybe in the background. Yeah, good morning. TJ Nagoli with NRTV. The German ambassador has touched a bit on the issue to do with investment, saying that the business environment, how friendly it is key in driving investment into Zimbabwe. Maybe to begin with, what is your assessment as independent EU member states of the business environment in Zimbabwe? And what have been the conversations between your respective nations, particularly the private sector, in their assessment of the investment climate, as Ambassador Kariba said?
Maybe I can start. I mean, of course, the business environment in Zimbabwe can be improved, and I think there have been some concerns also from Swedish companies when it comes to, of course, the high inflation that we have had, the exchange rate fluctuations has not helped in doing business in Zimbabwe. But let's hope also with the new currency that we will have more of a stability when it comes to the currency. But nevertheless, we have also, Sweden have several companies that are doing business here. We have 2 in the mining sector, Sandvik and Epiroc selling machinery, equipment to the mining companies. And we have Ericsson, the Swedish telecom company, doing business with Econet here in Harare. There are several examples. ABB has been here building power stations, but I think they had some of these problems that I mentioned with the fluctuation of the exchange rate, etc. But there is definitely a potential for increasing both trade and investment. Thank you.
Others on investment climate or anything? At the end of the day, it's a question for a company. You see, it's you ask the EU ambassadors, how is your assessment of the of the investment climate? But in reality, it's not us taking that decision. It's as I think the German colleague said very clearly, it's a decision taken by a company. Some companies might take a higher risk because they expect a higher margin. Others know how to mitigate one risk but not another. They might not come, etc. It's very individual. But I think what we can do, we as an EU, Team Europe, and in particular my member states colleague, is promote Zimbabwe, bring companies, show them, explain them. Then there's another side, and the other side is create a favorable environment for that investment. And I think both sides have to work together to make investment a success.
I think one important element is also if you look at the African free trade zone, because for European countries, they very often don't focus on a very small market. They're have a regional approach. They look at the southern part of Africa, not only at Zimbabwe. And so these initiatives that Africa starts to undertake themselves with, for example, the African Free Trade Zone, are very important to help create something where you can easily exchange. I mean, we have, for example, here in Zimbabwe, Fuchs, which is, I think, 51% Zimbabwe-owned and 49% from the German company in Germany, Fuchs, with oils and motor oil, etc. And they work largely also as a distribution hub to bring it to other African countries. So for them to pass the borders, to have the least possible costs and efforts to distribute things is a great problem. And I think that's all part of this whole, how do we improve the business environment.
Maybe somebody who did not ask first.
My question is with regards to the arts and culture. Last year, the EU...
To the?
Arts and culture.
Arts and culture.
Arts and culture.
Yes.
Okay.
Last year, EU, through the Culture Fund, released a major grant. And this year, a second phase of the grant has been announced. How do you evaluate the success of the first phase of the grant in terms of success, impact within the cultural space in Zimbabwe?
Well, I think the project you referred to is Creative Actions 2. It was a kind of a test because normally we work together with rather bigger organizations and we have then a call for proposal and it's a longer procedure. And here we tried for the first time a system for 2 million euros to work with an intermediate organization, that's the Culture Fund, and then to have many more but smaller projects in the cultural sector. I think that was a great success. And for those coming tonight, I think you will get an example or a couple of examples of that. Because sometimes you do not require hundreds of thousands of dollars. You need a little money. If you are a talented artist in Zimbabwe, and I can say Zimbabwe got a lot of talent, then sometimes a little money helps you to promote what you're doing, to promote culture in your village, in your area. And we are very proud that we do this across the country. And tonight, actually, you're going to see a group which I met in next to Vic Falls, in a very small village. I had difficulties to find them. It's Danica Studios. They are beneficiary of a grant of how much? 10,000 roughly maximum, yeah? $10,000. And they have done a fantastic job. They brought in all the young talented artists and created a little studio for registering. They are all between 18 and 22. And that has created a whole cultural scene around that studio. And we have invited them to showcase us what they are doing tonight. So you will have a chance to look at that. But I think it's a fantastic example, and I'm sure we will continue that. But my member states also are doing quite a lot in culture. France,
France,
for example.
As I mentioned, yes, arts and culture are one of the priority of our partnerships here in Zimbabwe through the French Alliance, les Alliances Françaises that I mentioned, the Alliance Française in Harare and the Alliance Française in Bulawayo. And they are strongly contributing to the cultural life, I would say, in Harare and Bulawayo and in the country, with several events and projects. And I really encourage you to go at the Alliance for the many events that are organized there. And there will be one in May, May 26, just to mention. Which will focus on the new games for the Olympic in Paris 2024. The new games which are the new sports which are BMX, breakdance, and skateboard. So there will be an event celebrating this new sport for the games. It will be made at the French Alliance in Harare.
Another point, on our part, we saw a rising interest to invite artists from Zimbabwe for residency programs back in Greece from cultural institutions and organizations, which actually then contributes to this increased interest to showcase African culture. We find it very, very interesting, very important to do that, and also groups of artists like the one that will be performing tonight to participate in art festivals in the country, especially in these months of the summer months for the Northern Hemisphere.
We have also residencies in Bucharest from Zimbabwean artists. Your art is so strong, so impressive, well known all over the world. When I say only the word Shona, Shona means outside of Zimbabwe art. It's not a language, it's a kind of making art, it's culture. Yeah? Mm-hmm. You have to develop a category of experts who can sell art, because this is near food and other things, something which is very expensive if it is very good. I only can congratulate Zimbabwe that Zimbabwe was selected to the Biennale in Venice, which opens in April and ends in November. Zimbabwe has an important stand there, an important pavilion, and what is more important, I read that the entrance in the Zimbabwean pavilion is for free. So this is maximum of the possibilities what a country can have to present its art. Continue in this way and bring some manager who can sell art, yeah?
Well, exactly as my colleague said, Zimbabwe traditionally participates to the Biennale di Venezia, and this year as well they have a great delegation going there, and of artists and also people from the National Gallery with which we have a very strong collaboration. And then exactly with the National Gallery we had collaborated last year for training in restoration of paintings, and a Italian team came here and to restore some old painting from Italian old masters that are kept here in the National Gallery, and at the same time making a training session for Zimbabwean for people that work in this field in the National Gallery. And we do really hope to repeat the experience also this year, and in the future also to make an exposition of those paintings, maybe also to build a permanent exposition of this old painting of Italian masters. And we have also made initiatives in the fashion. As in Victoria Falls, we had we presented the fashion week together with a cuisine week, and at Victoria Falls, with a good success of the presence of the Minister of Tourism, and so we are very happy in our collaboration in these fields with Zimbabwe.
So this is a part of culture which I would call also more the commercial part, but there is something else which touched me a lot in Zimbabwe. There are a lot of young artists, and they're also they sing or they dance for a cause, and and that I have seen several times. And as Team Europe, we have two Team Europe initiatives. One, as we said, on greener and climate smart agriculture, and the other one on gender equality and women empowerment. We also found artists who naturally said, I would like to fight for a cause for women, for example, or I would like to save the planet and be part of an endeavor to preserve nature in a beautiful country like Zimbabwe. So tonight we are launching our Global Gateway campaign, which will focus on the two themes, green and gender. It's Silani Tinemi EU with You. And we have actually 4 artists, there's 3 artists and an influencer. So it's Feli Nandi, it's Mariani Bal, it's Asaf, his full name is Tafatswa, and Rumbi, her full name. Rumbi Takawera. They will all be there, and they bring themselves in, going beyond what they present on stage, to say, I would also be part of having more gender equality. I would like to be part of a green approach in Zimbabwe.
Maybe just to add what the EU ambassador said, I think we also, from the Swedish side, we have a good cooperation with several Zimbabwean musicians, singers, and some of them are also cooperating with us in promoting sexual and reproductive health in Zimbabwe. They being champions for these issues and participating in different events that we are organizing.
I think Rumbi worked also with you.
Yeah,
by the way,
yeah.
I would also add that one of our roles here is not only promote our arts and culture and other areas, but also support the Zimbabwean ones, as we were saying. And Spain is very keen on participating in all those festivals that are organized here. And some of you know me because of our participation in Mitambo, for instance, or in Jacaranda Festival, or in the International Film Festival for Women. Those are all initiatives that we can take part, but at the same time supporting all this talent that there is in Zimbabwe. And in the area of supporting our own artists, Spain has also always brought, for instance, flamenco, which is something that here it's very well accepted and valued, and support other actors of the arts world, like the Reps Theatre, which is also something very important to keep the own Zimbabwean artists' life alive. So I think we are all very keen on that.
And maybe to briefly add, I fully agree. There is so much talent here in the country. So many great artists. I actually bought myself quite a lot of nice paintings and sculptures. But also as the Netherlands, we support local artists. Indeed, as the EU ambassador mentioned, also to, let's say, to convey a message. Last year we worked together with a local artist on some climate murals to really kind of get across the message, to raise awareness about climate change and climate action. That was in Mbara. But we also facilitated a digital art workshop, a partnership between a Dutch and a Zimbabwean artist. And some of you might know our annual 16 days campaign, our gender champions, to fight gender-based violence. And also some of our champions are indeed artists, or they provide performances, they do dances, they do plays, all with kind of with a message to stop gender-based violence, to raise awareness in community as well. So I think that's indeed very instrumental to help local artists also that want to try to convey a message and fight for the good cause.
Portugal?
Very, very, very briefly, for us Portuguese, the most important priority is to put together Portuguese and Zimbabwean artists. And in that sense, we organized last week a concert at the Harare International School, where we brought a Portuguese violinist, and he played with a Zimbabwean pianist, Mr. Tina Chegera. So it's important also to promote him, and one of my main duties is not only to inform my authorities, and we have a new government now, about the economic and political situation, but also about culture. Also in order perhaps to invite them and to know a little bit more about your initiatives.
I'm Ethan Chindo from NRTV. My question is to the Netherlands. What happened to Harlem? Harlem, they used to support in sport, netball, basketball, handball, all different kind of ball games. It helped a lot of youth to move away from certain activities such as abusing drugs, etc. And then it just went silent.
Yes, well, thank you very much for your question. So Haarlem, that's a city in the Netherlands indeed, in the northern part of the Netherlands. And they have this partnership with the city of Mutare. So they, in the past, you are correct, they were quite active and they organized quite a bit. I've been here now for almost 4 years. I know there is still certainly contact. They are still talking to each other and seeing what they can do and in what way they can support each other. The support is really based on promoting the sustainable development goals and see how the city of Haarlem can support Mutare, but also kind of learn from each other and exchange expertise and knowledge on a certain of areas. On the previous partnerships on the sports side, I must be very honest, I'm not exactly aware, but it seems like something that would be really nice. I must say actually that there is quite some interest of Dutch sports teams to play here. During my tenure here, we were able to welcome our cricket team, for example, and also our rugby team, and I watched some of the games of our cricket team against the Zimbabwean team, and well, Zimbabwe won. Lucky for you, unfortunate for us. But there still is this connection, and sports is something very important in the Netherlands, but here as well. So let's hope that we can somehow revive that.
Okay, you.
My name is Shakuniso from Daily News. I wanted to ask, as EU, what initiatives have you put in place towards the health sector in Zimbabwe? And what
Towards the health sector.
And what is your assessment on the health sector in Zimbabwe?
Now let me start maybe with that. So very concretely, last year, as a European Union, we together, Team Europe, gave 41 million into the Health Resilience Fund. We had a long history of also support to the health sector. There was previously the Health Development Fund, now it's the Health Resilience Fund. But we also, as Team Europe, give 250 million euros per year through the Global Health Fund. Frank, it's called Global Fund for Health? Yeah. Global Fund for Health. 250 million to Zimbabwe to support the health system. So it's a massive investment into the health sector. What is, however, important as well, that I think on a global level, all countries in the world have seen that to succeed in the health sector is important to put sufficient national budget into the health sector. A health sector can only grow if it's carried by its own budget. So we can add to that and we can be good partners, but it will not be sustainable. So I think we have expressed as well that it's important to at some point take it on at a national level in a stronger way. But Frank wanted to say something?
No, it's a global fund for HIV, TB and malaria.
Yeah. So yes, we are very present as EU in the health sector, and of course the health sector is a crucial sector in any country, like it is education, like it's all the basic services. But maybe some of my colleagues would like to add on national initiatives.
Yes, maybe you know that here in Zimbabwe there's in Mutare, I believe, yes, there's the Luisa Guidotti Hospital, which is an hospital that exists since the 80s, and it was founded by an Italian missionary that died. She was killed by the Rhodesian police at the time of the Liberation War, and it is fully supported by Italian associations. Very frequently, Italian professionals, doctors from best Italian hospitals, come to the Luisa Guidotti Hospital to make training and to make surgery operations and so on. We are also, as far as the government is concerned, we are in contact with them to find out a way to build some project funded also by public Italian fund.
Other things on health, France?
Yeah, so France is contributing to the health sector through the Global Fund, as you mentioned, and other international funds, and also on a concrete project, quick impact project here in Zimbabwe. We have supported very recently mobile clinics here, which is very useful for the communities and of course has a strong impact on the ground. And also health is one of the sector of a partnership of our French research institutes active here for several years in Zimbabwe, called the CIRAD and IRD, and specifically also on animal and zoonotic diseases, and we support with the French Development Agency and our French Research Institute the creation of a new laboratory at the University of Zimbabwe to detect animal and zoonotic diseases, and that's very important, of course, the impact on health, but also on agriculture, livestock, and the economy. So.
Yeah.
Maybe just very briefly. Well, first of all, maybe to say that Sweden has been involved in providing support to the health sector for a very long time. Actually, when the first Swedish missionaries came to Zimbabwe in 1903, they built some health stations in Zimbabwe. But we have shifted away. We're still providing support also through the Global Fund and the global strategies, etc., to the health sector. But bilaterally, we are now focusing instead more on sexual and reproductive health and rights, and supporting health stations, health clinics, in order for them to provide or create awareness of the need for sexual and reproductive services, and also enable them to provide that kind of service to the people who needs it. Thanks.
Yeah, I would like
Spanish
to say
ambassador.
that Spain has been very active in campaigns such as the UN Gavi initiative, being one of the first donors, and we were also very interested in given the waiver of the COVID vaccine in the OMC, and we donated also vaccines to many countries in Africa and also to Zimbabwe. More to the ground right now, what we are, we don't have any bilateral agreement with the government, but we, through private organizations and NGOs, are very active in collaboration for dentists and ophthalmologists. And they go to rural areas in order to help the populations most in need. So maybe that doesn't appear in the newspapers because it's not like a very big thing, but it's certainly very, very important. So I would like to say that.
Last two questions.
Thank you. The question maybe just directed to the Ambassador of Portugal. Maybe for context, you say there's only one company for my invest at the moment. Would you want to maybe make a comparison with a peak number of investors? What was the highest?
We had more companies in the past, but not much more, because we have a strong community. It was bigger some years ago, but we have more than 1,000 Portuguese citizens here, so we count mainly on the local businessmen and businesswomen, also in machinery, construction, some restaurants, as you know. And one of the big issues now, it's for me, I report almost, I wouldn't say every day, but almost every day about the new politics, the new currency, the new situation here in Zimbabwe to my authorities. Sometimes I have direct contact with them, but it's a dialogue we are keeping. And as I told you, and some colleagues also told you, it's a question of it's their own will. They want to. They have to decide, taking into account the circumstances they are facing in this market. So our role is to encourage them to come and, of course, and to provide them information. But apart from that, well, we're waiting and see. We'll have good opportunities. As I told you, it's our intention to attend other events, and namely the next ZITF edition next year. Well, wait and see. So we are in contact with them. We cannot force them, of course. As you know, it also depends. It depends on me, but it also depends on you.
Any last question? Maybe ladies first.
My question is directed to Sweden. The question is on the Nordic Africa Summit that is going to be hosted by Zimbabwe. So I just need to know, you as Sweden, how are you going to help Zimbabwe with the preparation? And also, what do you think this summit is going to help with the development of Nordic countries in Africa?
Well, thank you for the question. And first of all, I would like to congratulate Zimbabwe for succeeding in getting an agreement on hosting the next Nordic Africa ministerial meeting. I think the date is not yet decided. I think it will be more or less the same time, maybe sometime in April or May. And I think the agenda for that meeting has not yet been discussed. But I believe, as a follow-up to the meeting in Copenhagen, that again, some focus will definitely be on trade and investment. And I think that will help to further improve, to further increase trade and investments between the Nordic countries and the African countries that are participating. So I think from our side, we are ready to help the Zimbabwean government. We have not initiated any discussions yet, it's too early, but I guess that we are very much ready to support Zimbabwe to plan for the meeting so it will be successful.
Last question.
Yeah, looking at today's events, Europe Day, what is the major theme for this year's event? And what are the major highlights that we can expect?
So first of all, obviously the 9th of May has a lot of history, because if you look back over 70 years, that was the Schuman Declaration. That was at the time actually where many European countries were just coming out of the war, Second World War, with over 75 million dead people. So horrible. And then they were sitting together and agreeing as a small group first on building what today is the European Union. So for us, it's a peace project. I think it's first of all a peace project. It has brought us over 70 years of peace, but also prosperity, democracy, etc. So we are celebrating that, but at the same time, we have also learned to not focus on what divides us, but what unites us. And I think today we have 27 member states, but it doesn't mean that all these 27 member states, as you can see, are all the same. We speak 24 different languages. We are dressing differently in our countries. We are eating different foods, you know, Italian, Spanish, Greek, and French, and so on, food. So I think that's why our motto is United in Diversity, which, by the way, is also in the preamble of the Zimbabwean Constitution. So tonight we are showcasing that through an EU village. All the ambassadors will be there. It's our motto, United in Diversity. But at the same time, we would like to showcase that we are a partner to Zimbabwe. And we are a partner because we support Zimbabwe in their vision to become an middle-income country, in the National Development Strategy 1, through the multiple projects which you could just see, in particular the 2 Team Europe initiatives, but also our Global Gateway initiative. We mentioned Kariba Dam. There are others. There's Natur Africa, which is on biodiversity, where people are put in the middle of biodiversity, and also on digital networks, which will be created, fiber optic networks. So we are showcasing that. And because Zimbabwe is a very young country, with an average age of 18.4 years, if I'm not mistaken, we launched that campaign I was mentioning earlier, our Global Gateway campaign, Silani Tinemi, EU with you. And that would be a lot of fun with the artists I mentioned, and I hope you will enjoy that tonight.
Yeah, only short, because we have to come closer. The EU project, which began, as you said, on 9th of May, is a project of states, sovereign states, who made the union. Nobody is forcing them. They are working for peace and prosperity, and the attractiveness of the EU is huge. We have some countries from Balkans which are preparing now to become members. And since 2 years we have other 3 countries who signalize they want to be part of the EU. They are Ukraine, Republic of Moldova, and Georgia. In these 3 countries there are a lot of people who are thinking already our way should be in EU, because we see is no war and we see is prosperity. We should not speak about dreams only, but about what we are showcasing since so many decades. And the Republic of Moldova, for instance, has decided last month in April in its parliament to make a referendum in October to ask the population if they want to be member of EU or not. So watch in October the Republic of Moldova and the result. Thank you.
Any other last minute comment? Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you to my colleagues.
Very nice.